Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. We're going to create a Sláinte card. Sláinte, meaning health. And in America, when we toast each other on St. Patrick's Day, we say Sláinte. And that means cheers. Hi, I'm Sherry with Ratchet Up Your Art, where we take the ordinary to the extraordinary and provide a different perspective along the way. And we're going to send Sláinte Mhath, which means good health, to all our friends and family by creating this card. So keep watching while we ratchet up your art. Okay, I'm using one of my junk mail flyer cards. These are the card fronts I made out of junk mail flyers. And if you missed the video on how to create junk mail flyer backgrounds for cards, go check out that video. I have it located up at the top of the screen. And here I am also enhancing the background of those cards using the smashing technique coined by Tim Holtz. This is where you take different inks and you smash the card front into those inks to create an interesting background. I'm also using the Tim Holtz air blower and my heat embossing tool. And so now I'm going to take my blending brushes and I am going to add some additional ink and oxides to the background to bring out some of the color. Blend that in just a little bit and then spritz some water on top of it to create those water droplets Tim Holtz is known for. Because these are oxides and inks, they react to water, and so this technique does produce a very interesting background, more of a texture background. And so then you just dry that. Your drying doesn't have to be crispy, it just needs to not have water puddles. If you want to learn more about how I enhance the backgrounds to the junk mail flyers, check out my second video on junk mail flyers, because it goes in depth of how I enhance those backgrounds using this smashing technique and the water droplets. I'll have that end card for you up at the top of the screen so you can check out that video. Okay, for this particular project, we're going to use our jelly prints. We have a bunch of jelly prints. We don't know what to do with them, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to use them to make our card. The first thing you want to do is you want to pick out the greens that you want to use for your card, and as you can see, I have quite a few of them. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them down into 3x3 squares for the ones I want. Here I'm using my Fiskars cutter, and again I'm just cutting these jelly prints down to 3x3. Now, could they have been smaller? Sure, I could have cut them down to 2x2, but I wanted to have mini clovers that are about a 1 inch, a little over 1 inch square, so that gave me a few different ones that I could choose from per the jelly print. Okay, now that I have my jelly prints into 3x3 squares, I am going to use my Cameo Silhouette to cut out the clovers. However, if you have a die cutting machine that you can cut out clovers with, you can use that. Or you can cut out a heart and trace it and make your own clover. So I'm just going to use my Cameo Silhouette to cut out the clovers. And if you're interested on how I use my Cameo Silhouette as my die cutting machine, go ahead and comment below and let me know if you're interested in a video on how I use my Silhouette Cameo with my jelly prints. Okay, after I did the background using the flyer, I let it dry, and then I went and I cut out my clovers to add to the background. So what I did first was I cut out a bunch of them. I can use them on different cards. I did what I call an audition, where I decided if I liked which clovers on the background, which ones really stood out to me. And so I decided that these are the ones that I really like. So I'm just auditioning them and deciding if these are the ones I want to use. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to glue these onto here. So I'm going to use these for something else. This one's kind of neat. I keep auditioning these clovers, and I have to tell you, I can't figure out which ones I want to use because I think I like them all, but I'm looking for ones that are popping off the background and that are not the same contrast. I'm looking for a stark contrast with these, and also looking to do like an ombre effect, light to dark on the clovers. And so then I finally decided on these 6 clovers, but I think I changed them again. But anyway, I finally settled on them, and I think these are the ones we're going to go with. And then the next part I'm doing is I am going to attempt to align these on the card. So I use some Sizzix sticky grid paper, and I put that on my glass mat to hold my card front in place. And then I use my ruler, my tonic ruler that goes with my glass mat, to line the clovers up. Now, what I find interesting about this whole concept is jelly printing is all abstract, and you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit kind of art. But when it comes to my cards, I think that's where it clashes with my OCD. Not that I'm OCD, but you get my point. And I have to have straight lines and making sure things are as even as possible on the card. So I mess around with this for a little bit. But what I find really funny is that once I get my placement of my clovers, then I take them all off. And so, there's no rhyme or reason of why I do certain things on my cards, but here we go, taking them off. And then I start gluing them down once I figure out my placement. I wanted like a 1/4 of an inch. So when I glue these clovers down, I'm using my art glitter glue. I really like that glue. It dries clear. And so I'm just placing these clovers onto the background. In the middle of me recording this video, I get a text from my husband, and inadvertently I put the phone in the camera. So just for those of you who wanted to know what the text was about, it was about dinner. So I don't know if anybody remembers Basil, but back in the day when we had scrapbook stores and scrapbook nights and those kinds of things, there was a company, a paper company called Basil, and they had a whole stitching line. And so here I am using the template from the Basil stitching line, and I'm going to poke holes into these clovers so that when I create my embroidery stitch, I will already have the holes made for me. So here I'm just showing you a close-up of what that will look like, and I'm using my paper piercer to poke those holes into the background of the card. Could I use a sewing machine for this? You bet I could use a sewing machine for this, but I don't have one that works well, so I'm just going to use the old-fashioned hand stitching method, poke holes through here, and then I'll show you the type of stitching that I do here shortly. So after every line, I do 3 lines of stitching onto the card, and after every line I am going to tape the tail of the embroidery thread onto the back of the flyer or the card front, whichever you want to call it. And then when I start the next line, I'll clip my thread and I will tape that tail. Here are the close-ups of the back stitch. The first picture shows the needle going through the back of the flyer and being pulled to the front of the flyer per the second picture here. And then I go back through the front of the flyer from the previous stitch and pull it back through the flyer on the third picture. So you, instead of stitching forward, you're stitching backward, hence the back stitch. So here I start the second row of the stitching, taping that tail to the flyer, and then I'll do that row. And then at the end, you'll see that I'll have all 3 lines stitched, but this is how I do that. So here is the stitching of the background and how it turned out. Really like it. And then next I am going to use my Stabilo pencil and really high contrast and pop those clovers out from the background. That's the type of art I like for me personally, is I really like high contrast and I like intensity in my colors. And so now I'm going to use my water brush and soften out and feather the Stabilo, because it is a, if I didn't already say it, it's a water reactive pencil. And so I really like that look. So I just play around with this until I get the effect I'm looking for, and I'll show you at the end of what it all looks like. So here you go at the end, is the outline of the clovers. And so it really makes the clovers pop from the background. And next I'm taking my black soot, and I am edging my card with that black to tie everything together. And this is just an edging technique I use straight from the ink pad onto the card. I don't use my blending brushes here. I go straight to the card, and that's just one of my signature things that I do. It looks a little messy, but it's what I call grunge. Next, I took the word that I'm going to use and I cut it out of the Silhouette Cameo. So again, if you're interested in how I use the Silhouette Cameo with my art projects, go ahead and make a comment and subscribe to my channel, so that way you'll be notified of when I create those videos. And if there's something specific you would like to see, make sure to comment below. I would definitely like to hear from you and what you're interested in seeing. Here I am going to emboss the word with some glossy accents from Stampin' Up! And I'm using my Versamark to adhere that. So there's some glossy accents, and then I'm gonna sprinkle that all over the word, and it's gonna give it a three-dimensional like glossy effect. I do this twice, so I really wanted a thick glossy accents onto my my word there, cilantro. So here I'm using my heat tool, and I am heating up the embossing powder here, the glossy accents. And you can tell when you are your glossy accents are heated up is when it starts to look shiny. It's not so frosted looking is the word I'm trying to find. And then I'm going to add a second pass to this word on the glossy accents. So here it is at a close-up. Here's what it's all shiny, and it just really gives it a dimension and stands out from the card. And now I'm gluing it to the actual card. Again, placement. I'm just being really picky about my placement, which I find pretty funny, to be quite honest, because I really like abstract stuff. But anyway, it's all about presentation, right? I like things looking a certain way, even though it's abstract. In the background, I like it when it presents. I like it to be clear and concise. And so, again, pulling out the good old ruler, making sure that the word is straight and centered, which I think it's a little off. But anyway, when it's all said and done, it looks pretty good in my opinion. And then I put a glass block on top of a weight to kind of weight down the word and the glue. Give it a little bit of adherence because of that embroidery thread behind it. And then I really like how that's starting to look. Now, what I find interesting out of this whole thing is this is a junk mail flyer. These are the flyers you get in the mail, and they're awesome. Now, the other piece is I kept part of my cutout of my word, so I'd have placement of the accent mark and the dot over the I. So what I'm showing you here is that placement. When you use some of your space, if you will, you can get the placement where it goes. And so this is a little tip that I often use is I reuse the leftovers that I cut out of my silhouette for my placement of my letters. I find it really helpful. We're going to glue this onto the green background. Again, a flyer. Seriously, a flyer. It blows my mind every time I create these junk mail cards. And so we're going to go ahead and glue these onto the back. I'm going to put the glue onto the back of the flyer and then place it onto the card. I feel like it's still missing something. So I decided to dive back into my stash of from the past, and I pulled out these stickers, these lucky stickers that one of the companies had a couple years ago. And it actually had the words good health, good luck, and happiness. And I just thought that was appropriate for this card. So I used my foam tape and I placed that on the back of the sticker, and then as you can see the placement of the sticker onto the card. And I think it needs one little bit more thing, and so I decided to add this gold 4-leaf clover to it, as you can see, and I think that just really touches it off. So here is the end of the card. I really like the clovers on it. I like the fact I used my jelly prints, the stitching, and I just really had a good time with this card. I really like the look of it. The black, the greens, the blues was a nice touch to the card. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have not already subscribed, please consider doing so. It would really make my day. Thank you for watching Ratchet Up Your Art.